But we will begin with the breaking news. Former President Trump has been found liable of sexual abuse and defamation against writer E. Jean Carroll. I'm David Ushery.
I'm Natalie Pasquarello. The jury reached that verdict just about after 3 hours of deliberation. News 4's Erica Byfield live in Lower Manhattan right now with these breaking details. Erica.
Yes, to reach this verdict today, the jury actually had to wade through 10 specific questions, and ultimately they found that Donald Trump, they say, sexually abused E. Jean Carroll, and they also say that he defamed her. Take a look at this. Within the last 30 minutes, the former president reacting on social media to this news here in Lower Manhattan, he said, and I quote, "I have absolutely no idea who this woman is. The verdict is a disgrace, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time." Then, about a few minutes after that, we saw this. E. Jean Carroll walked out of the federal courthouse here to chants of women meeting her at the door, calling her brave, congratulating her on this verdict in this case. She then got into a waiting car and left without speaking to the media. Here's what you need to know about this civil case. The jury, who sat through about 2 weeks of testimony, decided that she deserves $5 million for what she says happened. According to Carroll, back in 1996, she saw Trump at an upscale Midtown department store. She says what started off as a flirtatious conversation with him ended up with him shoving her, kissing her, and then raping her in a dressing room. But again, the jury this afternoon disagreed with that rape allegation. When it came to defamation in this case, they found Trump liable too. They were specifically referring to a social media post that he made in October of 2022. In that post, he called her allegation a hoax, and he called Carroll a liar in this case. While Carroll's team throughout this trial called 11 witnesses, she took the stand herself, as did two friends that she says she told about this incident back in the mid-90s. We also heard from experts. Trump's deposition was played for this jury, and we saw that infamous Access Hollywood tape where he got caught on camera talking about grabbing women. Trump, though, did not testify in person in this case. His team did not put on a case. They called 0 witnesses to the stand here in Lower Manhattan. But again, on social media this afternoon, he called this the greatest witch hunt of all time. We don't know much about this jury that decided this case. What we can tell you is that there were 9 people up in that courthouse deciding this on the 26th floor. 6 of them were men, 3 of them were women. We don't know much because it's an anonymous jury. The judge told them he wants it to remain that way. He said before they left today, he advised them not to reveal their names to anyone, not even their family members, and let them know that they deliberated here on this case. So what is going to happen next? A lot of people don't know, but of course some legal experts are already weighing in. They think that the former president is going to appeal this verdict in this case. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Erica Byfield, News 4, New York.
All right, Erica, thanks for the latest. And while you're talking about legal experts, let's bring in one of our own, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Michael Bachner. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Let's get right in here. Let's talk about the jury's split decision of sorts, the libel of sexual abuse and defamation, but not on the allegations of rape. Can you speak to that?
That's certainly going to be one of the issues that's going to be raised on appeal. There seems to be some type of inconsistency. They found her credible that she was the victim of an assault, but disbelieved her testimony or found it insufficiently proved that she was raped. They're probably going to raise an argument that there is insufficient evidence based upon what appears to be an inconsistency. I don't think that's going to get them very far, but it's going to be raised.
From your experience as a criminal defense attorney, Michael, I want to ask you about the actions of Donald Trump himself, especially in the deposition where he seemed to double down on some of those issues that had first raised eyebrows about his behavior. And so how do you think the jury saw this, even though we may not know because they could remain anonymous? But from a defense attorney perspective, what role do you think that played?
Having Donald Trump as a client in this case was a particularly difficult thing to have. The deposition he gave, he did not come across well in. He misidentified Ms. Carroll as his wife, Marla Maples, and said that she wasn't his type. He had so much explaining to do if he were to have testified regarding the Access Hollywood situation. So at the end of the day, Donald Trump, Mr. Tacopina, I think, did whatever he could do with the evidence he had. But having a client who's not going to testify, refuses to testify, it makes your job as a lawyer so much more difficult.
And last question here as to what happens next. You know, we've heard from Trump just here recently in the past 30 minutes. He's doubling down. And when you speak to an appeal, what does that look like?
The appeal is going to raise issues like the judge's decision to let into evidence the testimony of 2 other women who said that they were also assaulted by Mr. Trump. who came in as pattern evidence. That's going to be raised, as Mr. Weinstein raised it in the course of his trial, and Mr. Cosby raised it in the course of his trial, this other uncharged crimes evidence. Mr. Tacopina had also made several motions arguing that the judge had been problematic and argumentative and interfered with their ability to put in a defense. That also may be raised. And there's going to be issues just about whether the evidence itself was sufficient. I think this is going to be an extremely difficult road for the defense to hoe, and I think ultimately this verdict is going to be upheld on appeal.
All right, Michael Bachner, former prosecutor and is a defense attorney. Thank you for helping us sort through the legal implications of this. We'll give you a live look outside the courthouse. The one remaining person we would expect or perhaps want to hear from now is Joe Tacopina. We have not seen him emerge. The attorney for E. Jean Carroll, Roberta Kaplan, only saying we are very happy. E. Jean Carroll not saying anything as she got into a vehicle and left. And as you heard Erica Byfield report, the former president has tweeted, so as his campaign committee. So we'll wait to see if we hear from Joe Tacopina. Again, some thought that there was some frustration on his part even during this trial. The verdict and the coverage of it continues both in this newscast and online. Right now on NBCNewYork.com, you can take an in-depth look at Carroll's testimony. Just search the name Trump.